Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video, I want to talk about why are you losing in court? Do you have this experience where you feel like just are not getting the results you want, you're not getting the outcomes you want in court, and you feel really frustrated because you can't figure out why? I have a lot of clients with that issue. So, that's what we're going to talk about. Let me just quickly remind you, if you like this content and you find it helpful, please hit like on this video and also subscribe to the channel so you get notified as new videos are released. When we're not doing well in court, we tend to analyze every little thing. We analyze how the information was presented. We analyze what the other side said. We analyze what came out of the judge's mouth. And I find that looking at all those pieces, especially for a self-represented person, but even if you have an attorney, looking at all those pieces, a lot of times clients do not understand what's happening enough to really be able to connect the dots on what's being said and why. For instance, let's say that the other side or their attorney makes this argument in your case. And then let's say the judge doesn't say anything about it. Let's say it was something negative about you. Let's just say they said the other parent is late to school with the child, 3 days out of 5. And you're thinking, that's not true. That's not even close to true. That's probably what's going through your head, right? And let's say the judge doesn't say anything about it or doesn't respond to that. And then let's say that they make some order that says, if the child is late to school more than X amount of times, then, custody will shift or whatever. And I'm just kind of making something up in my head, kind of on the fly here. The reason that can be frustrating is because now we assume that order was made because the judge believed that you were late to school with the child 3 days out of 5. And that may not necessarily be the case. Just because something comes out of the other side's mouth and the judge doesn't respond to it or validate it or oppose it or whatever doesn't mean that they're giving it credibility. It may just mean that maybe the court went over and looked at the child's attendance record and they can see that both parents have had tardies. And so they're just putting both parents on notice. Look, this keeps happening. Whoever it is going to be subject to, possibility of reduction of their weekday time because of the tardies to school. A lot of times it's something as simple as that. And we're drawing these connections that aren't even valid a lot of times for the court or in the courtroom. Here's what I want to compare this to. Let's say that we're going to start a business, okay? And let's say this isn't a small business. Let's say we're going to start this, big corporation that's going to produce some product, widgets, okay? That's always the generic thing, widgets, right? So let's go with that. So you have the executive functions of the business, right? We all know that. You have the CEO, the CFO, all those kinds of things. And those people are generally the highest paid in the company, right? Because they're carrying out those executive functions. And those are kind of the things that drive the business on a day-to-day basis. And then you have the operations side of the business, right? The people that are working in the manufacturing plant where the widgets are made, and they're carrying out the day-to-day instructions that have been put in place by this executive level part of the organization. This is very similar to what happens in court. We get very focused on the operational part, right? The very nitty-gritty of what's said, how it's said, how the person reacted, how the judge reacted, what orders the judge then made from that. But a lot of times we're not taking a step back and understanding kind of at the executive function level what the court actually wants to see from us. We're getting down into the weeds, into the nitty-gritty of the day-to-day things that are happening, And many times when people are having conflict, the day-to-day things that are happening that they're arguing about are what we kind of call garbage issues, okay? What the court and kind of the legal industry family law industry refer to as garbage issues. And you're not understanding at sort of that higher executive level what the court is actually looking for, what they're focused on, because what the court wants to see and what they're looking at and what they're analyzing drives your whole case. So if they're looking at all these executive pieces like best interest of the child or, different standards like that, or, the health, safety, and welfare of the child that's contained in most best interest, codes, they're kind of looking at, I think the best interest of the child is kind of your executive level functions. And then we're coming over here and complaining because the child's lunch was inadequate that day, or because they have a rash on their skin, or, whatever all the different things are. And you're getting down into that stuff because you don't understand what the actual concerns of the court are. That's why people end up not doing well in court. We have to back up and start with educating ourselves on that executive level functions. And, if you have an attorney, that probably is a little bit easier because your attorney knows that side of it, right? And they know what needs to be done from that perspective. But if you have the challenge of self-representing, then you have to figure that out for yourself. And if you do have an attorney, you have to figure out how to work with your attorney to get them the information that they need. And again, if you're starting at that operational side and we're kind of looking at what was said, how it was said, and we're interpreting, did I say interpreting? We're interpreting all of those things as the reason the court did what they did, when we're not understanding in the first instance that sort of executive level, which is, kind of more legal side of things, that executive level of what the court's actually analyzing or looking at. What do you do in that case? Well, I think it goes back to something I talk about a lot, which is you have to educate yourself. You have to understand. Most of the time when people are losing in court, it's because they have no clue what the court is actually looking at in their case. They have a list of complaints about the other parent or about the parenting of the child in the other parent's world. You're coming in with your own view, your own operational view, right? Because we're working in the plant manufacturing the widgets. And so that's our list of complaints, right? Is, all of these, kind of day-to-day things of, the child has a rash and, they're late to school and they're this and they're that. And we have this whole list. And some of those things on the list are pertinent for the court. But many, many, many times, the things on the list are important to us and not important to the court. You have to shift your perspective instead of coming at it from the list of things that I'm upset about or the list of things that I think are bad parenting. Because let's face it, our co-parent doesn't always hold themselves to the same standard that we hold ourselves to when it comes to caring for our children. You have to not come at it from the list of things that you're concerned about and say to yourself, okay, what things is the judge going to be looking at in this case? And one of the ways is by educating yourself on the law. There's a company called NOLO, N-O-L-O, which I'm not affiliated with at all whatsoever, but they make a lot of good instructional, kind of like legal instructional, very nuts and bolts, I guess is kind of the thing I'm looking for. Nuts and bolts kind of information on the process, which can be really, really helpful. But the other thing that I think is super helpful is to go in and watch court. Watch your attorney, not your attorney, watch your judge. I have more people come back to me after this one simple suggestion and say, wow, that made a huge difference in my case. Because when you go in and it's not your child and it's not your case, and you don't feel that level of emotion around what's happening in the courtroom and in a case, you can actually absorb more. You can actually absorb what's happening and what the court is looking at, what the court is concerned about. Sometimes the court will flat out tell people, look, I'm really worried about this issue, or I'm concerned about this or that. And you can really get a feel for your judge and what kind of things that particular judge is looking at in the case. All judges have to follow the law, right? That's the first thing that they're called to do, is to apply the law in basic situations. But you will start to come to understand what your judge's thought process is, what they do and don't like in their courtroom. And when it's not you and your emotions aren't at that same level, you will be able to kind of absorb what's happening in the courtroom and then kind of step back and apply that to your own case. If you have another parent that comes in that has their list of problems that they're giving to the judge, try to listen to that and step back and say, okay, is that what I'm doing? Am I coming in with a list of problems? And did that judge react negatively to that person? And if they did, maybe that's the reason the judge is reacting negatively to me, because I'm coming in with this same approach, not because it's me. We tend to take it personally. We tend to feel like it's us. It's not that it's you as a person. It's that the things that you are focused on in your case are not the things that the judge is finding critically important. And so the only way to figure that out is through education of the law in your state, education of what the judge wants from you, education of watching the judge in action, working with a coach, working with a therapist, helping you kind of get out of your own head. Because it's not that we can't understand these things or grasp them. It's that we have this very heightened level of emotion that's stopping us from actually seeing what's going on. Very normal when you have a child, right? What's more important to most parents than the happiness and well-being of their child? Not much. I would say that's in the top 3, right? For all of us, if you're a parent, or I would hope it's in the top 3 for everyone who's a parent. So that comes with emotion, and emotion is what stops us, right? That's the biggest thing in your life, is dealing with your own emotions, no matter what the trial is that you're going through, no matter what the struggle is. The emotions are your biggest enemy. And so that education will help you overcome those emotional issues. I hope that's helpful. Let me remind you, if you would like to book a free strategy session with me, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. I'd love to chat with you and see if I might be able to help you with your situation. See you guys soon.